the 4th will be with you, always. Hello there, and welcome to the Throwback Afternoon on this very special Star Wars May the 4th Be With You podcast. Star Wars weekend here for all of us light side Jedi. I am your host, Jedi Master James, and here to teach you the light ways of the Force.
I'm afraid you've made a grave mistake. May the 4th is over, and it's now time for Revenge of the 5th.
I don't have a lightsaber on me. What's up, home skillets?
Then you will die.
It is the Throwback Afternoon Star Wars special here for May the 4th weekend and Revenge of the 5th. As my brother and co-host here, Jared, has pointed out, we are back with an okay, there we go. He knows how to go green. You got that like Jedi Master hair too going on. Like it works. Like the beard and hair, you've got like a more Jedi Master look.
Thank you.
I do not.
There's only one Jedi Master, the Master of Death.
Oh,
There's one thing we say to that master.
not
today.
There you go. Epic crossover. But no, so we have a fun, exciting Star Wars themed presentation today. So, without further ado, I've got some fun little things to talk about and get into for us. So, I've seen this done on TikTok a couple times, and I think it's really fun. And I wanted to try it. It's something I've never done, but I want to try it. I've watched a couple different people, different podcasts and stuff do it. And it's a keep 5, cut 5. So, give you a list of 10 of something. Like, for instance, the ones I watch, they're usually doing like movies. They'll do like keep 5 movies, cut 5 movies. They'll give a list of 10 movies, and then they will, whoever the other person is, they have to pick 5 of them to keep and 5 of them to cut or get rid of, kind of thing. Now, I wanted us to both be able to do this. So, I came up with 2 different categories of keep 5, cut 5. And I'm going to let you pick which category you want to do. And then I will give you your 10 to pick from. And then you can tell me which 5 you're keeping and which 5 you're cutting. And then I will do the other list. And I'll because I mean, I made the list, but I have not spent any time. You can ask Jared. I literally jotted all these notes down like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before we started recording. So all of these things is going to be, even for me, it's not like I've had time to plan or think on it very much. I just wrote down this is a fun idea, and then in the spur of the moment, so that way it'd be fair for both of us, I will give my thoughts then and my choices then. So, your 2 options. And I had to put this all down on a notepad because I'm senile and I'll forget. Your 2 options for the keep 5, cut 5, your 2 categories is keep 5, cut 5 clones or keep 5, cut 5 creatures. And yes, I did clones on purpose because I know you're a clone guy.
Then, for the sake of keeping it interesting, we will cut 5, keep 5 clones.
Yes. Okay. Here are your 10. And I'll go through them if you need me to go through them again. Or if you need me to explain who any of them are. Although, like I said, I kind of tried to go as basic with it as I could. And again, I also tried to go with ones that are more well-known or well-loved because it makes it more interesting. You know, if I make it easy where it's like, oh, Commander Cody versus Bill, the 3rd clone from the left, then it's not going to be that hard. So, without further ado, okay, here we go. Oh, yeah, Bill. Bill, 3rd clone from the left. That's our new mascot. Bill, 3rd clone from the left. Okay, so your actual keep 5, cut 5. You have Hunter. You have Rex. Commander Cody. Wrecker, Echo, and Tech. I just loop, each of those. This one, so here's one I'm going to explain because I could not find an actual name or number for him. He's just a voice, but I put 501st. And I specifically, you can count it as the whole 501st Legion, or the one in my brain is from the story campaign mode on Battlefront 2, the old Battlefront 2, when he's like, "We were in the trenches and Vader called us out to battle." Like that guy, the narrator, 501st Trooper.
Manu Bennett did the voice.
What?
I didn't know Manu Bennett did the voice.
Hey, he'd make a good clone. Um, Jango Fett, Boba Fett, and Omega. So what we'll do is we're going to alternate. So you'll tell me one you want to keep, and then tell me one you want to cut, and we'll go back and forth till it's bammed out.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do it in the order. So the first one you gave was
Hunter.
Hunter, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you got to keep Hunter. You
Okay.
just
So we're keeping Hunter.
gotta. Yeah.
Okay. Now cut one.
Did you say Cody or Rex?
Rex was next.
Uh,
I know me and you talked about this a little while back about the whole Cody versus Rex situation. So this is obviously you got a lot more in here, but I know it's going to be, this is where I'm curious because I can't remember which one you said you liked more, but I know just dropped my little fidget tube.
the one I like more personally, and ironically, I should say, because Rex has kind of like a cooler armor in my opinion, and he's got the blue, which is my favorite color.
But
I think it's going to be Commander Cody, and I think that really stems from, and to get kind of sentimental here, as you said, most people are Jedi or Sith. Well, you've always been a Jedi at heart. Our other brother has somewhat been of a Sith, and I've been the trooper or the clone. So in that aspect, I know your favorite, I'm sure we'll get into that, of favorite Jedis is the one and only Obi-Wan Ben Kenobi. And his right hand, for the most part, was Cody. Yeah. And so I think I have that connection via in that way. So I got to keep Cody. I guess I'm going to get rid of Rex. I mean, nothing against him.
So far we've kept Hunter and Cody, which Cody was third, so that kind of works out. So we're saying keep Hunter, cut Rex, keep Cody. So you've got two you've kept, one you've cut. Next on the list, I can give you another three right here in an order because they all go together, which is Wrecker, Echo, and Tech from Bad Batch. That's the next three in a row. Now you've still got to keep three, and you've still got to cut four. So what do you want to do with those three? Yeah. Because this is the thing. I know we've also kind of dabbled talking about Bad Batch, but as far as in getting into your favorites on which ones you would keep and cut out of those, it does make me curious. I mean, like I said, you could keep all, you could cut all, but I'm curious to see where you go with it. Now, if you keep all, I'll be real surprised because then you won't, then you have to cut the last four. But at the same time, you know, if you are not worried about cutting 501st to Jango, Boba, or Omega, then it won't be too big a deal. But
see, that's an issue. Because I can tell you right now,
yes,
I want to keep Bobo.
Boba
and
Boba T.
Yes. Yeah, and then
if we're keeping Boba, let's just go ahead and make it easy on us. Keeping Boba puts you at 3 that you've kept, right? Hunter, Cody, and Boba. That's 3 kept, so you got 2 more keeps and still 4 more cuts.
I want to cut Omega.
Cut Omega.
It's
fair. I like Omega, but she's kind of like the Jubilee to the X-Men or Dawn for That she's the youth, the young, inexperienced kind of novice. I like her a little bit better than like Jubilee and Dawn from Buffy and X Men. I do like Omega actually does try and she does contribute a lot more than a lot of your like rookie characters, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean I get it. Yeah, I mean like I get that one. So you've got three more to cut,
Uh,
two more to keep.
I think I'm going to throw you a huge curveball here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cut Wrecker.
Cut Wrecker. Okay, not too big, not too big of a curveball. I get it. Head off.
You don't think so?
No, like I said,
Uh,
I know you like Wrecker. I like you remind me of Wrecker a lot, but as far as in like we talked about, just because it's a character that we're more like doesn't mean it has to be one of our favorites. And again, compared to some of these others, I get it. Like again, I love Wrecker. He's the big-hearted, big strong guy. Hence why he reminds me of you. You got a big heart, but you're also the big lovable tough guy. Um, but but like I said, we're also comparing up to some heavyweights with like Commander Rex, or Captain Rex, Commander Cody, Django, Boba. Like again, all things considered, I get it. So cutting Wrecker leaves you. I think it was it two left to cut and two left to keep. Leaves you Echo Tech,
yep.
501st, and Django. Yep. So you've got four left. Keep two, cut two of Echo Tech, 501st, and Django.
Okay. So my I want to play this to the wire. My next cut and then keep is cutting Django
Okay.
and keeping the commander of the 501st.
Oh, very nice. Good choice. Good choice. I like it. I respect that. So I like it. I like it. So now here's the big one. You have a keep and cut Echo versus Tech, which is that's a really interesting down to the wire, especially since we was just talking about Bad Batch. Okay.
um, and that is a very difficult decision, but I think I'm going to keep Echo
Okay.
and cut Tech.
Okay. That'd be my choice. I like Echo. I think, and I'm not even as far as you as far as in season two, but even at halfway through season two, and again, no disrespect to Tech, no disrespect to any of the Bad Batch. Like I said, I love them all. But I was even telling you the other day that recently, with me catching up, Echo's become one of my favorite members of the Bad Batch because his backstory and like his character growth and character arc and stuff has been so like interesting and intriguing and very like just uh I don't know what the word is, but connecting, I guess. So I get that. I agree with that. I like that. And again, no disrespect, because like you said, I know it's not easy for you to cut any of these because most of these are good. You could,
Yeah.
there's arguments to be made for each of these why that they could be kept or versus cut, but
Mm-hmm.
keeping Hunter, Cody, Echo, 501st, and Boba, which is funny because it did just you kept every other one. I just now noticed it was every other one literally right down that you kept versus cut. But yeah, Hunter, he's leader of the Bad Batch. He's got again that great character personality and backstory. Cody, like you talked about, emotional connection. He's one of the greats. Echo, we talked about that. 501st, it's nostalgic. It's awesome. That whole story, like when you play through that campaign, is amazing. Um, because I loved that too, and we'll talk more about the games and stuff in a little bit. But I love in that campaign, the whole thing is you transition from a clone into a stormtrooper. The 501st, you follow him as he's like, well, we've got new armor now and new orders, and we're transitioning over into this. And now instead of fighting droids, we're fighting rebels, and it's like so fascinating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I said, Boba and Django, you got to keep one, cut one. Like to me, anyways, it's you got to pick one over the other. And I'm with you and stuff. And there has been backstories on Django too that fleshed his stuff out, but I still find Boba more interesting. Where his dad was a bounty hunter, but it's one of those things, right? His dad was a bounty hunter in like the prime of like the Empire, and kind of everything was more sleek, like his armor. Boba was a bounty hunter in like the dark times, the harder, rougher times coming up. So interesting, but I like it. So now I've got to keep five cut five. Um, creatures. Okay, so I'm gonna read all 10 to you, and then I'm gonna go through and make my decisions. I'm gonna try to do this as without overthinking it as possible, and that's coming from me. So I have Wookiee. You know, obviously the Wookiee's iconic. Rancor, Sarlacc, or Mouth of Sarlacc, whatever it is. Ewoks, Bantha. Now, Bantha, if you don't know, I know it's a little bit lesser known by name, but you'll know the figure. It's what the Sand People rode on, the Tusken Raiders, the big, huge ox yak looking thing. Tauntaun, you know, just make sure yours doesn't freeze before you reach the first marker. Um, a dewback. Dewbacks are the big iguanas that the stormtroopers are on in New Hope when they're like looking through the sand. It's like a big iguana. Um, yeah, that's like I say. You may not remember that one. If you need to, you can Google. I'll throw a picture up for everybody else here. This one I know you may not remember because it's from the movie that most people don't like, but I know that you'd probably like this one because it's kind of like a dog. It's like a mix between a dog and a horse. They're called fathiers, and it was in Last Jedi. It's when Finn and I think it's Rose goes to that like casino planet area, and they're having to escape. These things they use to like race, like Kentucky Derby style races, which was just the other day I think, ironically. But they're like these big dogs, like big like almost like greyhound dogs, but you can ride on them. They get jockeys and stuff and ride on them. And Finn and Rose escapes. They let a bunch of them set a bunch of them free, and they escape on them. But I'll picture it. The Nexu, which is the big tiger-looking thing with the big mouth, the teeth. He's like, and he's got a bunch of eyes in Geonosis. You're getting my perfect interpretation impersonation. And speaking of Geonosis, the last one I put on here is Reek, which is the big like rhino thing that Obi-Wan's got to throw the chain around and like ride. It's like red. It's got like a bull, the ring in its nose, and it's got two horns comes out here and one in the front. It's also in Geonosis you had the Nexu, the Reek, and then the Acklay. The Acklay was the spotter, the Nexu was the tiger thing, and then the Reek was the big rhino thing. So, um, oh gosh, I'm gonna keep Wookiee because you got to keep a Wookiee. Can't keep a good Wookiee down. Wookiees are iconic, especially because I've never been like a big Wookiee guy, but I love Chewie. Uh, I like that bounty hunter Wookiee that was in Book of Boba Fett, Kristan. But my biggest love for Wookiees comes from Life Day. If anybody knows like the deeper lore, it's basically Star Wars Christmas. But Life Day originated on Kashyyyk with the Wookiees. And I actually have a book that is like it's called Star Wars: The Life Day Treasury, and it has a bunch of these little short stories that are like Christmas basically stories in Star Wars universe told. And one of them is about Chewie reminiscing on Life Day and these Wookiees celebrating Life Day back when they were young. And it's just really interesting. I really like it, and it made me have a newfound appreciation for him. The second one I'm also going to keep because I'm just going to do two keeps back to back, which is Rancor. You can't go wrong with a Rancor. I mean, it's as a kid that was one of the craziest parts is in Return of the Jedi when he drops down in the Rancor pit. C3PO because he's standing over the Rancor pit and it just drops and that thing comes the intro. Let's talk about the intro when they raise the gate and you're like, what the heck's a Rancor? And you see this just coming out. And then also Book of Boba Fett, they made good use of the Rancors. Sarlacc, I think I'm gonna cut. Sarlacc always grossed me out. it it's iconic, right? That big butthole in the sand with teeth. Um, it's iconic because it's a location. It's where the whole beginning of Return of the Jedi. You know, you'll be slowly digested over 5,000 years. Uh, but it always kind of grossed me out because it had like a beak and tentacles and teeth. I'm like, you got way too much going on, and I'm cutting it. I'm gonna come back to Ewoks. I don't know what I'm doing with the Ewoks yet. I both love and hate Ewoks. I do not know what I'm doing with those little bears yet. Uh, Bantha. I'm gonna cut the Bantha. It's a big yak. It's a big ox. they're kind of cute in a weird way because they got these weird looking faces, but they look like they would smell bad. they look they look like they would perpetually smell bad. Um,
I've been told that before.
because like here's the thing with yaks and oxes with like the really long shaggy hair like that, it's usually or even like a Scottish or a Highland cow, they're in a cooler climate. The cows
Cooler,
that
wet climate.
right when you see a cow type creature or a steer type creature in the desert, it's short haired or like shaved. You know, you see like these big longhorn cattle and stuff. But these things are basically like in the same family as that, but they're so woolly. They're like woolly mammoths, but you stuck them in the desert. And I was like, you know, that's got to stink. That's got to smell bad and be like sweaty and gross. So yeah, I'm cutting the bantha. So I got 2 cuts, 2 keeps. So I've got 3 more on each. Tauntaun I'm keeping. They're iconic. We all wanted a tauntaun. They also smell bad apparently when you cut them open. Han did that for science and for Luke, I guess. Mostly for science. What?
I think everybody and everything's going to smell bad when you cut it open.
Well, exactly. That was the joke. But tauntauns, and also adversely, tauntauns are in a winter climate. You see them out in Hoth. But they're kind of cool. They're like a mix between like a kangaroo and a goat, which is weird, but it works. And you can ride them. It's just cool. You can put a saddle on them, and they're like, bleh. And it did save Luke's life and Han's life by cuddling up inside of its guts. Um, but yeah, I like tauntauns. I think they're really cool. So I'm keeping tauntaun. I'm gonna cut the dewback. They're cool. They're big giant lizards, but at the end of the day, they're big giant lizards, which is again, they're just like big iguanas, like you that you can ride. Oh man, you know what I didn't put on here, which is probably good because I would have like put it above all else, and now I can't even remember what it's called. I wish I could. That's why I didn't put it on here. See, that's why I'm cutting the dewback. If you want a big giant lizard to keep, it's the one that Obi-Wan rides, and you guys can roast me in the comments because I don't know what it's called. But on Upatau or Utapau, when he fights Grievous and he's riding that thing, he's like, a big like bird lizard. That's what I would want. It's like that thing's cool. That's what I would. You're getting so many impersonations from me today. I would keep that, but it's not on here. So I'm cutting the dewback because it's like a Dollar Tree version, Wish version. I'm not even gonna say it because I like Dollar Tree. I'm gonna say it's the Wish version of whatever that was. The Fathiers, I'm also gonna cut because they're cool. They're like little dog horse things. But I mean, I'm not. You're the dog person, so put those on there more as a treat for you. But I think I'm gonna cut it. So far I've kept Wookiee and Rancor and Tauntaun. I've kept 3. I've cut Sarlacc, Bantha, Dewback, and Father. I've cut 4 and kept 3, but I have 3 left to pick from. So I got to cut 1 more and keep 2. Okay, we're gonna backtrack, and I'm gonna keep the Ewok. They're cute and cuddly, but they're also terrifying because I read those comics and stuff, and I've seen like the little backstories of the stormtroopers that were there after dark, and it's like you hear the yay yay like in the shadows, and it's like, oh god, he's coming for me. But at the same time, I love Wicket. You gotta love Warwick Davis as Wicket. And like the puppeteering for back in the day, like when they did it, was just so cool. So I'm gonna keep Ewoks. So then I got my 2 Geonosis creatures, Nexu and Reek. I'm going to. I really like both of them. That's why I picked them over the Acklay. So I didn't even include the Acklay, the big spider crab, because I'm just like, eh. But because I knew this would be a tougher toss up, because the Nexu is just so cool. Because it's got like spider eyes, it's got like a tiger's body, and that mouth looks like it's a Cheshire cat. But then you've got the Reek. What?
It sounds like a from Dungeons and Dragons. the Phantom Panther.
Oh, you're talking about the Displacer Beast. I mean,
Yeah.
similar. Like it's got the face. Its face is almost like a mimic, and then the rest of it's like a Displacer Beast. Um, and then you've got the Reek, which is like this just giant bull slash rhino minotaur looking creature, which is really cool. But you've also got like a lot of those in Star Wars. I've noticed like rhino looking things. I think I'm gonna keep the Nexu and cut the Reek. Because the Reek is cool, but at the end of the day, the Nexu just looks like something as a kid, like a lager type creature that you'd love in like a video game or like Pokemon Digimon type deal. So there you
Well,
go.
I would also go back to you have a Reek, but a Reek is just the simpler version of the I guess it's called a Razor Crest.
I think you're thinking the
The
same thing as me in Mando that he fights the big rhino there.
yeah,
Yeah.
his symbol.
Oh, the one you're thinking of is completely different. No, the symbol, the Mandalorian symbol is a different thing. That's like a big
No,
dragon
there's
thing.
the Mandalorian symbol,
Oh,
and
but
then there's
his.
his symbol.
Right. Yeah, never mind, never mind. You're right. Yeah. Yeah,
I
see,
mean,
and that's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking of. There's like other like rhino type creatures there. Um, but yeah, so that's gonna be my cut five, keep five. Keep the Wookiee, Rancor, Ewok, Tauntaun, Nexu, Cut, Sarlacc, Bantha, Dewback, Fathier, and Reek. So there has been our cut five, keep five. All right. Next up on this Star Wars little podcast episode, I have quick rounds. So it's gonna be like fast money on I forgot the name of the show. We just watched it like 2 hours the other day. It wasn't 2 hours, it was like an hour. Family Feud, that's what it is. um
hey, Steve Harvey, I'm your host.
uh and basically, but I don't want you to just, but the difference is it's going to be your preferred. Like I'm asking you your favorites. It's like name your favorite, but a quick round. Like we don't, no explanation. I'm just going to ask you. I want to say this, and then you're going to say this answer, which is your favorite of this thing. I'll give you a bunch of Star Wars things. You're going to give me your favorite. For instance, like I left creatures out of this because I did the keep five cut five. So if I just said favorite creature in Star Wars,
Probably a Tauntaun.
all right, and then I would do your favorite clone.
Cody.
There we go.
Commander Cody.
So there you go. So like, and like we don't have to explain it, nothing. We're just going to quick round it. Okay. So without further ado, when you are ready, um, and I'm doing the same thing again. I've not thought about my answers too much. I'm just gonna, once you give yours, I'm gonna give mine, and then go to the next question. You ready?
Yeah.
Lightsaber color.
Uh, Pink.
Turquoise. Jedi.
Original Luke Skywalker.
Obi-Wan. Sith.
Anakin Skywalker.
Darth Bane. I'm gonna go deep cut on that one. For if you know, you know, but I'm not giving an explanation. Planet.
Ah.
Ooh, Hoth, that's a good answer. Voss, which is another one. If you know, you know. Droid. I've not even. Oh wait, never mind. I know who mine is.
Yeah, what was his name? Something 88.
IG-88 or IG-11, I guess.
Yes.
From Mando.
Yes.
Okay. K2SO from Rogue One.
Hmm.
Vehicle.
Nice.
It can be a spaceship or
Ooh.
any other kind of Star Wars vehicle.
I think the a Jedi just battleship like what Anakin and Obi-Wan would have used in the first and second films.
Jedi Starfighter.
Yeah, Starfighter. That's what it's.
I think mine is going to be close to that. I'm gonna say the the way I was about to word that, I was thinking of the character. I'm gonna say a Naboo starfighter. The
Oh, can I
or,
change?
no. Yeah, I'm gonna change two actually. Mine is still Naboo, but it's not the starfighter because the Naboo starfighter. I don't know what the one I'm thinking of is. The Naboo starfighter I'm thinking of is the yellow and silver looking ones. But I like the one that they took in episode one that Queen Amidala was on when they went, and it was like this big sleek silver looking. Although the Naboo Starfighter is really nice. I think I'm just gonna stick first
Yeah.
answer Naboo Starfighter. The yellow, the classic
Okay.
yellow that they flew, and Mando ended up getting one and repurposed it.
Yeah. Speaking of Mando, kind of Slave One specifically.
Save one. Okay, there you go. Nice. The good old Boba Fett. Okay, there you go. That went a lot better and quicker than I thought it would. So
Oh,
I should have put more options on there, but I didn't think about it. But that's okay because, like I said, we don't want to get too bogged down.
okay,
Now
I'll give you
it's
one.
okay.
Favorite force ability.
Ooh, good one. Are we count now? When you say force ability, that's light side and dark side, or just
Force ability.
okay? Okay. Oh man, because a good question because do I go practicality? Do I go favorite? I mean, I guess favorite. We're not supposed to overthink it. Saber throw.
Same.
Okay. I not a big explanation, but I've been playing a lot of Battlefront 2, the old Battlefront 2, and each character has a mix of abilities. They always have two, but some of them have the same two, some have different two, and it's so like handy that saber throw.
Right. There's nothing that beats throwing a sword that's going to guarantee to come back to you.
Right. Exactly. It's the boomerang effect, but with a lightsaber.
Yeah, the only original limiting factor to a sword is its range.
Dude,
Well, if I can throw it and make it come back to me, it's the most deadly weapon in the galaxy.
right. Unless, and here's the beautiful part about this whole question and answer is, and this is going to be a real throwback for you. Unless you're fighting someone who can also use the force, and you get the classic pulling
Oh
it back and
God,
forth,
that's
and you know what I'm thinking of. You know where I'm going next with this. I hope you do. Ryan versus Dorkman.
next level genius.
Ryan versus Dorkman. Old school YouTube. Oh my gosh, I've not even watched those in so long. Man,
I didn't show those to Dad.
yes, those. So there was two of those, the Ryan vs. Dorkman 1 and 2, which was amazing. And this was back in the day. This was before we had the CG effects we have now, especially in big movies, let alone for these YouTubers.
YouTube.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other one that me and you used to watch a lot, we loved, and I can't remember the name of it, but they were parodying the Art of War like thing. Uh, but it was like Star Wars, and it was like all slow, and it had the like music, and it had the dude sitting there goes, "My beloved Susan, it has been so long since I've seen you. I've been on the battlefield," and then it's like this slow mo, and he had the lightsaber, and it's like woo, like this big, like dramatic, like cinematic thing, and he did this, and we used to watch that all the time alongside the Ryan versus Dorkman stuff. Oh my gosh. Um, so my next thing on the list, we're gonna come back to memories and stuff, but I had to get to that one. That was so good. Uh, the next one on the list is there's so many Star Wars movies, and there's so many debates around the rankings and the rating, and everybody likes this one and that one, and so I didn't want to do a big drawn out, dragged out, blobber knock 'em kind of thing. I respect them all. I have my favorites and my least favorites, but like I've always said, I'm a huge advocate for if it makes you happy and it's not hurting anybody, I don't have a problem with it, and nobody else should either. Like, you do you. You be happy. If it's not hurting anybody, who cares? If you like blue and I
I
like
agree.
red, who cares? Like, but there are people out there, and that's the sad part of the world. I got so depressed the other day. That's a whole nother topic, but I won't go into real detail. But it was a different topic. It wasn't Star Wars, but it was a thing that I was looking up videos for. because it's a thing that I was excited about that I'm nerdy about, and all of the videos was just negative, 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 negative. Like there were so many videos, but they were all like ranting hate videos. Um, and I was just like, I don't understand. I'll just go ahead and say it because it kind of ties into the Star Wars thing. Is Disney adults? So me and my wife consider ourselves Disney adults. We love Disney. We love the parks. Well, I mean, we've only been once, but that's all. We count down the days to go back. We love the parks. We love watching videos of the parks, the rides you can watch on YouTube, like the little ride throughs. We love the movies. Again, even the properties, Star Wars, Marvel, the games. Like we're big Disney people. We like Disney collectibles and stuff. But like
Hmm.
when you try to look up stuff, so many people like it was just we just wanted to look up some ideas for like Disney decor, Disney house decor, and Disney like Disney adult vlogs and stuff. And it was just so many people hating on it. Like there was these two guys doing a podcast, and they was watching this woman that was going to the park for the first time and seeing the castle, and she was like emotional, like crying. She did like a little like vlog, like, oh my gosh, it's my first time at Disney. And they're like, you're crying at a tourist attraction. You're a grown woman. And I'm like, what does that have to do with your day? Why are you upset at her having an emotion? She's happy. That's what makes her happy
Hmm.
and emotionally react. Why bother it? So like when people do it with like even with like Star Wars, like you see so much toxicity in the fandom of, oh my gosh, you like Jar Jar Binks is your favorite character, you must be crazy, or Last Jedi is your favorite movie. I can't look at you. What is wrong with you? Who cares? Like it doesn't affect my day if you like a different Star Wars movie than me, or if you like Disney less than I do, or more than I do. I don't. You're not hurting me physically, emotionally, mentally by you being happy. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not hurting you for me being happy with what I'm happy with. So that's my little throwback afternoon rant for you. Because back in the day, there might have been toxicity. There definitely was bullies, but obviously with the more connected of the web and like I said with YouTube, right back in the day, yeah, you had people that would pick on you because they were unhappy or because they didn't like you being a nerd or liking certain things. But it is crazy how now, because she posted a video, her video reaction sharing her excitement with other Disney fans. But now because it's out there, there's so many other little bullies and trolls, cyber bullies can get on there and make fun of her and pick on her. That back in the day, she's probably in a whole nother state, probably would have never even met. But anyhow, be nice to each other. There's the lesson of my story. We'll get back to the Star Wars. Be nice to each other, and if it makes you happy, be happy. And if it makes them happy, let them be happy. There you go. So we're going to talk about our top three. We're just picking our top three.
Okay.
Again, it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to even be in order. I'm not even going to push like it's got to be in this. It's just your top three Star Wars movies because there's so many, and again, there's so much debate that I'm just like, it's going to be too much to try to like rank all of them because if you count the side and spin-off ones, although one of the spin-off ones is in my top three, but I am curious to your top three. If you need a minute, I'll spill out my top three. I think I've got mine locked down.
Uh, yeah, I've got mine.
Okay, let's hear it. Is it in order or are
Again,
you
not
just
in.
okay? There you go. You answered the question.
Uh, I want. It's not in order of like first favorite to third favorite,
Yeah.
but it is Episode 2, Clone Wars, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and I want to say not 5. 5 is A New Hope, correct?
Four is A New Hope. Five is Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay. So maybe it is A New Hope then. The
Four is A New
one
Hope.
where we get black suit Luke. I think
That's Revenge
that
of the
might be
Sith.
6.
Yeah, that's six. Or no,
Okay.
Return of the Jedi. Sorry.
Okay. So 2, 3, and 6.
Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi. Nice. Very nice. Ours are almost near. You can't tell we grew up together. Ours are almost the exact same. other than one of them. Um,
Uh,
Mine, again, no particular order, would also be Revenge of the Sith, which is episode 3, Return of the
mhm.
Jedi, episode 6, and my third favorite is going to be Rogue One. I'm a big Rogue One guy. Um,
He is.
so yeah, so that would be my 3. So also 3 and 6, and then Rogue One. It doesn't have it. It's not in the main line, but like I said, it makes me happy. I like it, so I'm counting it. It works. It's a Star Wars movie. Because I'll tell you the truth, I even liked Solo, and everybody else hated that movie too, but I liked it.
It was
Um,
okay.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't like again. I don't think it's up against heavyweights like Episode 3 or even Empire Strikes Back or any of them, but I don't think it's as bad as like people that's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so now I have a list. Now it's going to be this kind of like open memory lane discussion. Now we're really going to enhance the throwback afternoon. I have a couple like little like just memory joggers, I guess, to discuss about, which is kind of good. I wanted to save this for the closing so we could kind of close with more of the nostalgia from the heart kind of Star Wars getting excited things, like the Ryan versus Dorkman YouTube stuff. I forgot all about that. I'm so glad that you brought up the whole throwing the lightsaber thing. Um, that was so good. But and it is just touching on memories, certain memories and things from our childhood, our experience. That's the word I was looking for. Our experiences with Star Wars and what it meant to us growing up, kind of thing. So for starters, I have on here, which kind of goes twofold, is lightsaber battles, and specifically in with that as well, not specifically, but in juncture with that was when I believe it was when Episode 3 came out, because Episode 3 came out when we were in middle school, and we were living down in the countryside, kind of more separated from like the city. We had like a big property where we lived by the church. That's when we lived by the church down there, and we had the churchyard, front yard, backyard. We had our front yard, backyard, and we had the big field next to us, which I think we've talked about in the other podcast. And then we had a bunch of friends. We did a lot of hanging out with our brother, and then our friends that we call brothers that come over all the time. But we had the lightsaber battles, but more specifically, and I believe it was for Christmas or birthday, or they may have just got it for us just because. But we got the build your own lightsaber kits. Now we're not talking your Disney World, which I desperately want to do those too, where you actually do the whole ceremony. But we are talking whatever year Episode 3 came out. I think they had an Anakin one, Obi-Wan one, but they also had like just a Maj part. They had it was huge. It was huge because you could get the purple blade from Mace Windu, you could get the Dooku stuff, and like I said, I think they have some of those in stores now, but it's not like the one we had. It was huge, and you had the different hilts, different little like screw things. You had the different color crystals. The bottom part you could screw and unscrew on it'd be a different color. Like or it wasn't the color crystals, it was the discs. You slid the discs in. I remember now. You slid the disc in over the light that came up, and you had the little blue and red disc, but you could get purple, or you could get a purple blade and put on it. Um, and we all got some of those, and we were so excited. It was the coolest thing. Like nowadays,
Yeah.
you've got all these new fangled, and you got all these websites where you can get like heavy duty ones, which these, to be fair, was very heavy duty. They're this thick plastic. You get hit with those, you felt it. But um, it was just the coolest thing. And then you could get the in the same brand, you could get like Obi Wan's or Dooku's pre-made. We used to have so much fun with those. Like we had so many lightsaber fights, so much pretending. It just I love it. I love it. I don't know. It's just that was one of the memories I specifically wanted to bring up and talk about and see how much of that you remembered or like the reaction of you smiling over there is when you know like it's when I can bring it up and I can see you instantly it triggers you can remember it. It's the fun stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I remember exactly what you're talking about. Definitely a lot of good times. Um, we just. I mean, you pretty much covered most of it. I think particularly a memory that I would have is growing up with uh, technically three older brothers.
Yeah.
Um, and each of them wanting to be the one to show you how to do something. Uh, it's kind of good for you. It's almost when you're getting a loan or wanting to purchase something, and you have the banks fighting over who's going to give you the loan because then you win.
Right.
That's sort of how I felt when I was younger growing up. I had you, my brother John, and who I consider our brother Dwayne. Uh, and each one of you had your own original lightsaber sword fighting style,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
And each one of you would try to teach me that way. But in the doing so, I became a combination
Of the
of all
three.
of those different teachings, and I think that kind of made me a very deadly fighter in my own right by using all three
A
of
little bit
your
swinging it
styles,
up.
and
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it's and I say that to bring up to point this out is it works as a memory of the throwback and the lightsaber, but I think you guys did that in life with me, so I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Hey, like I said, well, I mean, and that's the thing, right? That's the thing about nostalgia, the thing about memories, the thing about Star Wars. Like I said, is it reflects and because like I said, it's that balance, that two-sided thing. Because you even was talking about where our brother John was more of a fan of Anakin and like the Sith, and by extension, our buddy and call him brother too, Chris. I remember whenever we would do the lightsaber fights, we'd always get together, and Dad would always hang out with us and do lightsaber fights too. A lot of fond memories and stuff. And you had those two every time they fought. Everybody was as far back against the wall as you could get because you could feel the they were about the speed and power at the same time. That was this because they both fought like Sith. They fought like you
Yeah,
wanted to take the other guy out as quickly and as permanently as possible. Like theirs was that you can't see anything going on.
aggression.
It's the aggressive tactics. Which again was fascinating. Like when I think back to the memory, I'm like, back at the time, I was like, oh my god, I got somebody gonna get hurt. I stay away. But like when you look back on it, it is that blur of the lights and the cheap lightsaber sound warm with the thick plastic going.
And you talking about holding up.
Yeah,
I don't think this would have held up. This would have
right.
bent and broke instantly.
Those things, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. That plastic was so thick. Um, but again, it was
Yeah,
good. It did what we needed it to. I mean, but those two, like, it's still, you look back on it, it's like, wow, it's actually kind of amazing to think back on it. But then me and Dachi, or Dwayne as we call him growing up and stuff, we went the more Obi-Wan route, or the more a weapon for a civilized age. We wanted to go the more flourish, style, grace, strategic kind of way. Like for us, each swing and hit or block or parry had to be thought out and planned. Instead of the as fast as you can, you were watching and then counterbalancing and then going, which again is it's a sword fighting thing. Like you said, there's so many different styles of sword fighting in real life. I was telling my wife the other day, not meaning to, but because even after the lightsabers, we had a lot of like training wooden swords and stuff, and we always like doing like melee combat and stuff. And I've always been a saber, not just lightsaber, but saber like swashbuckling is what I call it. The one-handed, like this kind of almost musketeer type fencing almost style. Uh, and so yeah, like you said, it's just so many memories and a lot of good quality time. It was stuff that again we can sit here and look back on, think back on, talk on, and watching Star Wars, or whenever I go to the store with my daughter now and see like her looking at the Star Wars toys or the toy lightsabers, or when she's old enough for me to watch the movies with her, it's going to be this big emotional event because I can still remember those times when we did that, and I can still tell her about those times, and it's like reminiscing on these old stories of our youth and stuff. And that's the beautiful thing, is passing it on the same way that Dad was there to buy us the lightsaber things and talk and do the lightsaber fights with us and teach us what he knew and talk to us about that. Um, which is going to tie into, I'll skip around here, and I will tie that into uh, some other to the next little bit of memory topic, which is talking about Dad and kind of our introductions into Star Wars and our memories. So for me, the first time I remember ever seeing Star Wars, and I've talked about this before, was I was in elementary school. I cannot tell you what grade. I want to say second or third grade. I'm not 100%, but I believe it was second or third grade. And I remember coming home, getting off the bus and coming home and coming in, and Dad had got off work, and he was sitting on in his recliner, and he was watching episode, I believe it was Empire Strikes Back. It's either Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. Can't remember which because I don't remember the exact scene. I just remember Yoda was on the screen. I remember it was Luke talking to Yoda. And I kind of stopped. I put my little book bag down, and Mom was making dinner, and I was like, I went over and climbed up on the couch, and I was watching it, and he was just, watching it engrossed, and I was like, "What is this, Dad? What are you watching?" And he said, and he paused it, and he goes, "This is Star Wars." He goes, "I've not shown you Star Wars. You don't know what Star Wars is?" And I'm like, "No, Dad, I've never seen this before." I'm like, "Who is that? What is that little dude? He weirdly looks like one of my cartoon characters, you know." I'm like, "I don't know who it is." And he goes, "Oh my god!" He said, "Well, don't watch this." He said, "Hang on, hang on." He said, "Well, we got to start you from the beginning." He said, "You can't watch here. This is already close halfway through." And he said, "Let me start you at the beginning." And he had the black VHS covers of the VHS tapes of the original trilogy. And I remember him putting in New Hope, and we started from the beginning, binged through all of it. Uh, then it was one of those things, kind of like with my first movie I ever seen in theaters, Lion King. That Christmas, I got nothing but Lion King. I remember after seeing that, um, getting, man, I remember so many things that I got from that. I remember I got one year for Christmas, I got this little keychain lightsaber. It was a green keychain lightsaber. That I use it as an outlet anytime I was like scared. I remember specifically because we've talked about this. My biggest nightmare period when I was a kid was Chucky. I watched Child's Play way too young, and it gave me nightmares for 2 weeks. But I had this little lightsaber, Luke Skywalker lightsaber keychain, and I do remember when I got scared, little kid, getting climbing out of bed and getting that off my shelf and like under my covers with this little lightsaber keychain and like feeling safe. I felt safe. It made no sense, but it's what worked for me. Um, but then I also remember getting one year the golden VHS covers when those came out, and I remember this is the thing I was going to tell you about too. If you remember, Dad and Uncle Lincoln, our uncle, had a big plastic case of the action figures, the real old action figures. It was shaped like Darth Vader's head, but it would open up, and they had all these real old Star Wars figurines, which is awesome. And I remember, again, it was one of those like you can look, but don't touch, don't take them out because it's collector's items. But I remember we would sit, and that's what we would do. We would just sit and look at them for hours, just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Just even just doing that, we just felt so excited. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously there's so many more. I remember getting in trouble because at school I kept writing that my name was Luke Skywalker at the top of your worksheets where you got to write your name. And I come home and Dad was like, I guess the teacher called him, and he had the work all of my like a stack of papers. He's like, "Why'd you put your name? You put it on every one of these that your name is Luke Skywalker." And I told him
Oh, yeah.
like the best kid answer you can give. He said, "Son, why are you writing your name's Luke Skywalker?" And I said, "Because I want to be Luke Skywalker, Dad." I'm like, "I want to be Luke, so there you go." And he goes, "It does not work
That's
that
from the
way."
time you want.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to be Luke Skywalker. They asked me my name. It's Luke Skywalker. I want to sign
Um,
that check as Bill Gates. I'm Bill Gates. But and he's like, "Son, it doesn't work that way. You can't keep doing it. You gotta. Your name is James. Right, James. You can't be doing this." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "James Skywalker." No, Ray Skywalker. But no, like I said, but all that was from that initial growing up with it, and then into like we talked about middle school, high school. with episode 1, 2, and 3. I have all the memories of the episode 1 Phantom Menace cans. I remember Dad worked for Pepsi, got those in. I remember sitting in the
Mm-hmm.
floor, looking through each of the character cans and just sitting there staring at them, being happy. Uh, but yeah, but that was some of mine. I again, and obviously you was younger than me at the time, so I'm curious to kind of hear your side of that and like were your first introductions.
Uh, Unfortunately, my memory is not
Oh,
great. Um,
he's gonna say it's tainted. I was like, oh no, it was a Sith.
no. I just I do believe my first introduction actually was episode 1.
Oh,
Uh,
that makes sense.
I'm not 100% on that, but
That
I think
I
it was
would
episode. It might have been episode 2.
I no I would actually about support the episode 1 thing because I was going to say one of my memories from episode 1 when it came out was because that was the first one that came out in theaters that we were old enough to see. Because you was still pretty young, but
Right.
I think you would have been elementary school age then too. I mean, I was too, but I think I was more in like, see, it's 2001, so I would have been 10, which would have made you 7. You would have been 7, I would have been
Yeah.
10. Or was it 2001? Or no, it was 99. Wasn't it? It was, no?
I don't know. No. No.
When did episode 1 come out? Look at us. It came out 25 years ago, I know that, so it would have been
99.
99. It would have been 99. So I would have been
Maybe.
8 and you would have been 5?
Yeah.
8 and 5. Um, but I do remember us going to see it because I remember when it came out, we were excited to see it, and because it was the first one in so many years, I remember Dad would listen to the radio a lot when we was like going to church or going to school and stuff in the morning, and I specifically remember the dude on the radio talking about the lines around the building and people camping out and all this stuff. I remember our uncle coming over and talking to Dad about it and them getting excited about it and stuff. And but I do remember us going to go see it, and I think it was all 4 of us went together. I think our older cousins, Mike and Brandon, may have been there too. But I specifically remember me, you, and Dad, and he took us. And I remember we met up with our uncle, and we went and seen it. Now again, you was 5 at the time, so I imagine would have been probably a lot younger. Like I said, I barely remember much else than that, but I just remember that part. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
God, it's crazy to think about. Crazy to think about. Um, but yeah, continue. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, we could figure out real quick how old you was and go from there, kind of thing.
I mean, that's it. It was just again like being 5 or 6, and you you witness all of that kind of stuff. That's when you're first. Uh, I want to say like discovering life. You know, most people you don't really remember anyway.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like your brain's not fully developed, I guess, in such a way up until 5, 6, whatever.
Right.
Uh, to where you have those memories or you understand. So to be that young and you're probably your first theater trip to seeing this big, huge screen,
Right.
and then you've got these colors and the sounds and the creatures and the ships and like just the effects and so on. It's
Right.
just sort of a very impactful, moment.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I don't know. I think which everyone, obviously in the theaters when episode 1 was out, and you have the infamous scene of when Darth Maul turns his saber sideways and
Yeah.
unclicks his secondary blade.
Yeah.
Uh, that is just wild because before that time that had never remotely been heard of.
Right.
Uh, and so I think that was a really cool moment for me.
I mean, it's like you were saying with the lightsaber. It's like we talked about with the lightsaber fights. Before that point, you had the Darth Vader and old Obi-Wan fight, and then Luke and Darth Vader's fight. And they are these more kind of slowed down lightsaber battles. It's more almost like a quick little tennis match kind of thing. Whereas
Yeah,
with Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan back then, it was a way faster paced, up the ante and the action and the flips and the kicks. Then you had so much more on the effects side of things with the star battles, and it's like cartoons come to life for us. When you're a kid, Star Wars was this big sci-fi fantasy. We grew up watching cartoons or cartoons and just kids shows like Power Rangers and um, I'm thinking of, well, even like Disney, like watching Aladdin or Hercules, and um, I'm going blank on. Well, or we watched X-Men, Spider-Man. You're watching all these cartoons and these kids' TV shows, these big fantasy and epic action, and now you're seeing a full 2 hour length thing being told out this way with, like you said, these big effects. You're seeing way bigger effects and more realistic and feeling immersion. Immersion, I guess, is the big thing. With an episode of
yeah,
Power Rangers, which again, I could do a whole thing on Power Rangers too, how much we love it, but it's a 30-minute block of television you watch each afternoon after school, and it was still immersive and you got to escape. But when, like you described it, when you're escaping into something that's on the big screen and it's this big story, and then when you find out there's multiple movies and stories that it's built this universe and this world on its back, it is just this. It's captivating and a spectacle. Uh,
mm,
and so yeah, so it's and like you were saying, that being one of your first things, it's one of your earliest memories of seeing a cinema movie thing or a big epic, and also too, like he was talking about the lightsaber fights, that sponge effect. With mine, whenever I first introduced, it was because Dad was such a huge fan, and then when him and our uncle would both talk about it, you picked up on this, like you picked up kind of on the hype from them, the contagiousness of it. And then with you, you had me,
mm,
Dad, and Uncle, plus all the other fans at the theaters and all the hype that was around it, people camping out in the lines. Because that was for me too with episode one. I was like, oh my gosh, there's people camping outside the movie theater? I've never heard of this before. What, they crazy? When you're a kid, like even at 8 years old, I was like, God, this movie's so good. There's people camping out the night before. It's an event. We like I think you said it was like an event thing before, and that's what it was. Uh, so it's impossible not to get hyped. And then the merch, the games, like you said, the trickle effect. Because episode three was the same way when we were in middle school, and you had this all of our friends and everybody at school talking about it. Uh, and then just the movie tie-in game when the DVD came out, the lightsaber, the products and merchandise. Um, it's just because I think we went with the group because we had that little van that we had, and I think we went 2 or 3 times to see episode three with a group of us.
yeah.
So it's crazy, and yeah, I did put down about the movie and the game because I remember we used to love that game. Uh, and then
Hmm.
obviously, yeah, like your Battlefronts, all the games trickling down. You got your Battlefront one and two. You had I was struggling to remember some of the games, but Force Unleashed was another big one. Back in the day, I know
Republic
there's
Commandos.
what is it?
Republic Commandos.
Republic Commando, that's a good one. Jedi Academy. Um, my neck. The Lego
Absolute
games.
Republic 1 and
I'd say
2.
the Old Republic one and two. Good ones, good ones, good call, good shout out. Uh, the Pod Racer game for episode one. Speaking of episode one, the old Pod Racer game. Uh, so many and then like we talked about the shows, the movies, because you had the old Clone Wars show. You got the new one that everybody talks about now, but you remember the old one that was like instead of the 3D animated, it was just 2D. It was actually done by I think his name's Gendy or Gendry Tartakovsky. I'm butchering the name, but he's the same guy that did Samurai Jack, the animation for Samurai Jack. Did that old Clone War
Hmm.
series, and they were like what 5 minute episodes, little quick mini shorts that Cartoon Network played. They were
Yeah.
awesome. They had a character on there that deep cut most people won't know. His name was Dirge, and he had like this big knot armor, and he had a speeder bike and a big lance. You remember he would like ride into battle and like that dude was cool. Asajj Ventress, she's big in the stuff now, but she was created for that animated series. She's one of the only things that like lived on from it. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, and then obviously the books, like oh, dude, the books. Forgot to even talk about the books because you used to get them from the library for me every day or every week. You would check them out. They had the Jedi
Hmm.
Apprentice with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and that was when I was in high school and you was in middle school, I think. And my library did not have them, and yours did. And I remember every week I would like be like, "Oh, you would check it out," and I would read it while I was on the bus. I was like, "Okay, bring me another one when you're able." And I don't even. You
Well, we
were
both would read them.
okay. I didn't know if you read them or not. I knew that I was always
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pestering you about it.
That's how I got you started on those. I started reading them um, because my middle school did like a AR point, like a reading program.
Yeah, the old AR
If
program.
you read a book and then you would take
Take a quiz
like
on it.
a 10-question quiz, and then you'd get so many points, and then at the
Yep.
end of the year, you can buy like candy or whatever with those
Get
points.
stuff with it. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I read. God, I used to read for someone who you'd be surprised who is hates to read, just does not read, just doesn't do anything about it. I don't think I ever went without like 3 different books that I was reading at a given time.
That is awesome.
Those
Yeah.
Jedi Apprentice books was
They were
one of them
so
because
good.
it was mostly like the young stories of Obi-Wan and
And
Qui-Gon
Qui-Gon.
that would have been pre-episode 1.
Yes.
But you even had some special series that
Spin-offs.
would do a almost like a side by side. It would have a chapter with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but
I
then
know
in
the
the
one you're
next
talking about.
chapter would be a similar situation with Obi-Wan teaching Anakin. So kind of like between episode 1 and episode 2, with Obi-Wan now as the mentor.
R.I.P. Siri
Um,
Tachi.
and those were really good.
Yes.
Huh?
I said R.I.P. Siri Tachi. Character that
Yeah.
both got killed off in one of those that you're talking about, one of the crossover books. It talks about whenever they were young and they
Boba.
what is it? It wasn't Boba Fett. It was a
Boba.
bounty hunter. It was a bounty hunter, but it wasn't Boba Fett because that bounty hunter is no longer alive. Boba Fett was still alive until the Return of the Jedi. This bounty hunter is no longer alive. Um, so pretty sure Obi-Wan killed him. He may not. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But either way, it was a different bounty hunter, but he had like a really crazy name. But I think he might have been Mandalorian though. I think you may be right on that. Which is kind of funny and ironic because again, where those books aren't considered canon, so in the new canon, instead of Siri Tachi existing and the whole love affair with her and Obi-Wan, you have the love affair with him and Sabine, Duchess Sabine, who is actually the Duchess of Mandalore. And I'm just like, that's kind of funny because, or not Sabine, or is it Satine? I think it's Satine Kryze. Um, but either way, the chick that he ends up falling like has a love affair with in the canon arc is was the Duchess of Mandalore, which is funny because I'm pretty sure it was Mandalorian that killed off Siri Tachi in the book. Um, but anywho, yeah, those they were so good. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know if that you was as into them. I because I knew I know you was not a big reader. So for some reason, I always just thought that you just got those for me. That it was just like you was like, well, I don't, I'm not worried about anything else, but I'll give them for you to read and take it back. Which either way, I appreciate it. It's awesome. But yeah, that was, God, I remember reading through so many of those. Um, and I remember there was another series too, another book series that I read in elementary school. Um, that me and another girl that I was friends with was in a competition to try to read them all before each other. Anytime they would get a new one in, we would like race to the library to try to check it out, and they'd be like, she'd be like, did you get the new one yet? Is it here yet? And I'll be like, you can read it after me, But that one was, I think, called Fear, like Star Wars Fear, Young Jedi, something. I'd have to look it up. I'll throw a picture of it up. but it was a really cool book series about these like young Jedi. And then you had so many of the other legends. Darth Bane, who I referenced earlier, is from the Legend series. You have Plagueis. I read a lot of those. Actually, the Darth Bane trilogy and Darth Plagueis, I read. Um, this was after I'd done got married. This would have been 2016, 2017. This is after I was living on my own. I read them on breaks when I was working. A buddy of mine had them, and he let me borrow them. But yeah, like I said, I think just ultimately coming to the close here, it's you can't help but love Star Wars. It's something that it's celebrated, and no matter where your memory or nostalgia comes from for it, you can find something. I think we can all find something from it that's it's inspiring, it's motivating, it's got heart, it's got pain, sorrow. You've got redemption arcs for several of the characters that they go through. Uh, there's so many different characters and different backstories and so much lore that you can always find something there to cling on to, relate to, or aspire to. I think it's hope. At the end of the day, the first movie that most of us watched, or the first one that our parents watched, the first one that came out was called A New Hope. And I feel like all of Star Wars is kind of built on that. That like there is darkness, but there's light to balance it out. There's always a balance. Um, and I mean, and again, then when you take that into consideration with how many memories it spawned for some of us, you can't beat that. I mean, that's just yeah. So, any final thoughts from you on the legacy that is Star Wars?
I do. And a question.
Yes.
Uh, who do you believe was the chosen one?
I still say Anakin. I've actually stood by that. I do. I know I paused to think, but that's because I was trying to remember because I knew that I've had this question and discussion before. I still say
Mm-hmm.
Anakin because at the end of the day, Luke was not the one that beat the Emperor. Luke did beat Vader because that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series, officially confirms what we all kind of suspect, anyways. Anakin and Vader were two separate personalities, two separate entities, basically, that existed. Vader was the one that supposedly thought he had killed Anakin. Luke said, nope, Anakin Skywalker's in there. But Luke was one of the, I will say, Luke was one of the few to realize, and that's a whole nother thing we'll get into about the whole Luke and believing in the good in someone. Um, but Luke was the one that still knew that Anakin was in there and not completely dead. And
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like Luke was the one that knew that Vader and Anakin were two different people, were two different sides of the same coin. And I feel like Luke beat Vader, which allowed Anakin to come back. But Anakin was still the one when Luke was being beaten by the Emperor. Vader was still the one that threw Vader over and killed the Emperor. Anakin was the one at the end that grabbed him and threw the Emperor over, thus effectively or ineffectively, whatever, bringing balance to the Force. I still say that it was Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's my argument on it. Is like Luke may have beaten Vader, but I don't think Luke beat the Emperor, but I think Anakin did, and I think that's where that came out. There's a whole deeper argument about like then it was unbalanced because then you had a Jedi still alive but no Sith, but so it's not exactly balanced.
Well,
It's but
that's why. So I agree. It was Anakin, and I actually seen someone else had brought up this point. Um, but due to Anakin's hands or Darth Vader's, at the end of Episode 3, there were two Jedi and two Sith.
right. Yeah, I've seen that said too that he did effectively kind of like wipe out. It was down to just the two and two because then you had Yoda and Obi Wan and Anakin and Palpatine, and then you ended up having when Luke came along, Vader killed Obi-Wan, so you had Luke and Yoda, and then you just had I mean there's a lot of balancing out that he did. But then you had Luke and Yoda versus the Emperor and Vader. Then Yoda passes away at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, so then Luke and Vader fights and he beats Vader, but then Vader takes out the Emperor. So then it was just him and Luke, but then he died off. And to be fair, Luke kind of like I don't know. I guess well, because then Luke starts the school, the Jedi Academy, in like a lot of the or canon or however you want to look at it. But again, that's all further down the line. They didn't say. To be fair, they said he'd bring balance to the Force. They didn't say he would keep balance to the Force. He would just bring balance to it. So
Right.
even by him bringing it down to two and
Right.
two or 1 and 1 at all, he did the job. Um, but ultimately, I think it referred ultimately to him beating the Emperor, which he ultimately did.
Mm.
Now the whole Vader has returned and Rey and Kylo have to fight him. To be fair, that was a Emperor clone, so I don't even count that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
hate on the movies as bad as everybody else. I don't love them as much as others do, but I still stand by that Anakin was the chosen one.
Mm.
That is my thought analysis. But aside from the question, your final thoughts.
Oh, just I mean that was
Your final thought was who is the chosen one? Yeah, well, you know what? Sound off in the comments who you think the chosen one was. Was it Anakin? Was it Luke? Was it Rey? Um,
was it Obi-Wan?
was it Obi-Wan? He did a lot of killing some Sith and even kind of did the whole smiling at Luke like, "See ya, kid." Um, he's like, "You can go train with Yoda now, so my job's done." I'm peacing out. Um, yeah. So I think the last thing to say to all of our home skillets out there is, may the force be with you
Revenge of the Sith.
always.